Good evening and welcome to the April 21st, 2026 business meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we are joined by four of our board members, our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Timothy Harney, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Mr. Robert Haas, our Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, Ms. Kerry Laughlin, our Assistant Superintendent of Personnel and PPS, Ms. Emily Ekstrom, our District Legal Counsel, Christine Durant, our District Clerk, Ms. Suzanne Benetti, and our Student Representative, Ms. Kaylee Bruckner. There are two opportunities for community participation. First, when the board takes up its agenda, and after the disposition of all agenda items. Non-district residents will require a majority vote by the Board of Education if they wish to make a statement. Time allotted for each speaker shall not exceed 3 minutes. All district meetings are live streamed and posted thereafter at the district website. And please follow us on social media through X, Instagram, and Facebook. Before we start the meeting, I want to announce that our own student representative, Kaylee Bruckner, was honored earlier today with the Town of Islip Outstanding Community Service Award. This award is given annually to an Islip Town senior that exemplifies the meaning of selflessness and serves as a role model by inspiring compassion and others to serve. Ms. Bruckner has distinguished herself and demonstrated strong leadership through her role as the student representative to the Board of Education, as an ambassador for the Bayport Blue Point High School at the BOCES Long Island Regional Student Forum, and as a three-sport varsity athlete, serving as captain on all three teams. Congratulations, Kaylee. Job well done. At this time, I'd like to open tonight's meeting to community for old and new business. However, if you are here to ask a question or make a statement regarding class sizes or anything related to the district budget, I ask that you wait for the conclusion of the budget presentation where Dr. Harney will address some of these issues. So if anybody has anything else they want to bring up, new business, nothing, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Harney for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Welcome to everybody here tonight. Good to see all of you. Just a couple of things, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Bruckner. Again, congratulations to her. She never ceases to amaze us, so congratulations. And they did win tonight, so I guess that's another plus, right? There you go. All right, just a couple of things, as Mr. Johnson alluded to. So tonight we are going to do a couple of things. We're going to, Ms. Laughlin will review our last budget presentation. Tonight is the night that we would have to adopt a budget. Remember, tonight you're adopting a whole number. So that will be something that we talk about later on. And then as well as I have received a number of emails, probably since the majority of them today, but I had done a presentation on staffing on March 31st, which I'll give some of the historical background to that and some information in terms of the proposal that we have made to go forward. So I will share that with everyone tonight as well. And then just a couple of other announcements. Just a reminder, middle school and high school report cards are coming out. They'll be posted to the portal on Monday. We have another concert coming up within the next week and a half. On the 30th, we have our jazz night. And I'm sure if you haven't received a note, or you will, is the New York State assessments for grades 3 through 8 for ELA and math will be coming towards the end of April, beginning of middle of May, and then also science will be the early May. So that's just something, but it's a little bit different than the school calendar. So just make sure you pay attention to notices that are coming home. And then obviously our high school within the next couple of weeks will be doing their AP exams as well. A couple of things going on this Friday. I get the opportunity to attend an award ceremony for 3 of our Eagle Scouts here at the high school, so I'll be doing that. And then we also have Blue Point Idol on Thursday, and we have Academy Street Poetry Cafe. So we have a lot going on for Thursday. And then today we also had our college fair at the high school, so thanks to Mr. Walcott and everybody at the high school. It was very successful, and the students seemed to gain a lot of information. With that, Ms. Bruckner will have the majority of the other information, so I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. Blue Point Elementary is excited for their talent show on Thursday, Blue Point Live, especially some Stranger Things characters who might look familiar. Blue Point Elementary would also like to thank Miss Rang and Miss Whitney for bringing the high school dance team to Blue Point Elementary to do a dance clinic during Friday's wellness period. As for Academy, there's so much going on this time of year. We would like to thank the PTA for all the enrichment they have brought to Academy Street, from our new debate program for 4th and 5th graders to our kindergarten discovery tanks and the 1st grade reptile presentation, just to name a few. Our 5th grade classes have been working with the Seatuck Environmental Association this year and recently visited the first hatchery in East Islip as they continue to learn about our seashore ecosystem. This week, we hope to see lots of families at our Poetry Cafe on Thursday night, and on Wednesday, our 5th grade families will go head-to-head in our Trivia Night. This past week at Sylvan Avenue, students engaged in meaningful learning experiences, including a visit from the meteorologist John Marshall, our first grade star lab, and our 5th grade hosted the career fair to share more about future occupations with younger students. We are proud of the curiosity and enthusiasm shown throughout the building. Looking ahead, our 5th graders will visit the South Shore Nature Preserve through our partnership with Seatuck, and we look forward to welcoming families for our upcoming VIP Day this Friday for special guests of students in grades K through 2. The high school has transitioned into the 4th quarter with a strong focus on attendance, punctuality, and academic success. The school is actively supporting post-secondary planning through events such as the College and Career Fair and upcoming job fair opportunities. Looking ahead, the students are preparing for Special Celebration Week, an initiative focused on building school spirit, promoting kindness, and engaging students in charitable giving.
Thank you, Kaylee. Tonight we have 3 presentations. We're going to start first with our academic presentation. This is the 5th one we've had this year, and it's from our James Wilson Young Middle School principal, Ms. Westerlin.
Hi, thank you. For all of you who don't know me, I am Patricia Westerlin. I'm the proud principal of the best middle school in Bayport Blue Point, James Wilson Young Middle School. And I'd like to thank the board tonight for giving me the opportunity to present a little bit of some of the fantastic things we're doing at the middle school. So to start, I would just like to remind you of last year when I presented. You might recall that I gave an overview of our 6th through 8th science curriculum and its alignment to the New York State Learning Standards. I discussed the shifts then that were taking place to ensure the integration of some of the cross-cutting concepts and the core ideas at the middle school level. Tonight, I wanted to give you an update that shares how that realignment has allowed for co-curricular learning, collaboration, and even some fun at the middle school. Okay, so before we get to that, I'm going to back up and remind you that within science, we're often talking about when and how students are learning concepts across grades 6 through 8 as a grade band. It's a connected sequence that we're really looking at. And when we did that last year, what we noticed was that students were receiving instruction in areas like forces of motion, energy transfer, and engineering design processes, primarily in 8th grade general science. That became really an important focus for us because 8th grade is also the year when our students shift to, if they'd like to accelerate in their science course, and they would take Earth Science, now Earth and Space Sciences. So both of those courses are rigorous courses. However, they have different focuses. So, for example, in Earth Science, students might be really looking at the climate systems or tectonic plates, for example. They're not necessarily focusing on engineering concepts or physics concepts that are more foundational in nature. And as a result, our students may not experience those concepts until later on when they move into a physics course in high school. So obviously what we wanted to do was we wanted to address that gap so that all of our students were receiving that foundational instruction. And so that's what we did. We moved those concepts into 7th grade. And so now all of our students are able to experience that before the pathways diverge in 8th grade, depending on whether they stay in a Regents course or move into an accelerated course. So again, that matters because our students are building those foundational skills, and we want them to have that confidence moving forward as they receive instruction in future courses throughout high school. So that was one important move that we implemented this year as a result of that shift. The next thing that came out of that, which was also a great development, was that in shifting those ideas to 7th grade, our teachers noticed the connection between the math concepts that students were learning within that grade level and some of those science concepts as well. And so what they did was they collaborated to support students in how they were applying their knowledge of those math concepts. So for example, students might be creating tables, plotting points, identifying patterns. All of that work is happening in 7th grade math, and they're able to apply that to science in those investigations that they're doing. So those real world concepts are coming into play, and they're able to really focus on the why behind what it is that they're doing. So what I want to do is just give you a little glimpse as to how they're doing with that. And so I have a little video here.
Objects and something to target.
I'm Scarlett and I'm Catherine, and we made the catapult project. During our project, we needed to find materials like rubber bands, popsicle stick, and the plastic spoons to be able to launch forward improbable to reach a certain meters. And that was definitely challenging because we had to have the right force to pull it back and stuff.
So we had to go through a bunch of testing, and we measured with the protractor how far back the spoon would pull back and where it hit on the target. Yeah, we kind of just made adjustments based on that. We had to rely on methods by using the protractor. We had see what numbers to coordinate and date data, so we know how far it would go when we launch the ball, ping pong ball, to see if it would hit the target.
So we got to do multiple times to find out the average.
So for our project, what we got in super successful was we got to do a lot of rubber bands. We had rubber bands supporting the base, and then also we had to use spin so it could fly. And then the next thing we did, once we realized that was working, we changed the next step and we added a rubber band behind the screen so that created more attention, and then it was really successful. That extra rubber band helped us get the ball to 5 seconds.
in mind that this was their first experience with this project. It was the first time we were doing this. And they will be doing a few more of these investigations. I know they've done an egg drop and have applied their concepts to some other sorts of investigations here. I think they've done a fabulous job. And, you know, the work obviously doesn't end here. Our science department and the teachers within the department are committed to our students. They're continuing to reflect on the curriculum. And again, this is just a glimpse of one of the ways that we were able to take advantage of the time and the shifts and be able to bring some real world application and some fun into science as a result. For our students, of course, middle school is a formative time for them. They're beginning to really shape who they are and form their identities. And, you know, so much of that is an important part of, you know, why we take into consideration opportunities where we can teach them that it's more about the growth process and making sure that we're giving them opportunities to revise and reflect and grow from that, so that they have that sense of ownership and they start to recognize within themselves and for life that through that reflection and refinement, the persistence that they are you know, going through and experiencing, it's really a more of matter of that than it is the perfection that is going to help them to succeed and lead to success for themselves. So we're really looking forward to seeing what they do with those lessons and how they're going to put that to use in the future. So once again, I want to thank you. I want to, you know, just take a moment to thank the staff as well. You know, this doesn't happen without the time and energy and effort that it takes to design and facilitate these opportunities for our students. I want to thank the board again. Thank you so much for allowing me to show off some of my incredible middle school students and what we're doing in the building. And of course, thank you to all of our parents who are supporting our students and partnering with us along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Westland. Does the board have any questions? Thank you. We appreciate it, Ms. Westland. Great job. Next, I'd like to invite up Mr. Ronnie Devine, our chair of the Budget Advisory Committee. It's a community committee that meets with the administration and some of the board members on a monthly basis to discuss budget and other things. And at the end of the year, they make a recommendation on our budget and also maybe some ideas, concepts that they've come up with during the year.
Thank you, Vice President Johnson. I have some handouts for the dais. Get set up here. Good evening, everyone. Vice President Johnson, as I said, to Superintendent Harney, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you the findings of our 2026-27 Budget Advisory Committee for our Bayport Blue Point School District. We will keep it brief, and I'd just like to present it to the board, if I may. Introduction. The Budget Advisory Committee, otherwise known as the BAC, was created by the Bayport Blue Point Board of Education well over 2 decades ago. The committee's primary responsibility is to meet and make recommendations to the Board of Education regarding the annual proposed school district budget. The BAC is grateful for the opportunity to participate in this year's budget process. We'd like to thank Eileen Regina, Chief Office Assistant, for her communication skills in advising the BAC of our scheduled meetings. She's much better at that than I was, so glad she took that over, so we thank her for that. Budget initiatives. The BAC is very much aware of the constraint the Board of Education has when managing the fiscal resources and educational needs of our children. During the past months, Dr. Harney and Ms. Loughlin attended our numerous BAC meetings and provided our committee with an easier-to-understand accounting and budgetary analysis. The goal of both the administration and the committee is a total shared transparency of the fiscal and monetary concerns of the district. This year, due to retiring debt and the requirement of a negative tax levy cap, the district would have had to present a budget levy approximately $473,000 less than the prior year. This unusual action requires our school district to ask the community for support in exceeding the tax levy cap, which has never been done before. In fact, even the first dollar budgeted above this negative figure would have triggered a piercing of the cap. So that negative figure is not a good thing for anybody here in Bayport and Blue Point. As such, the district embarked on a current budget proposal that would include savings in health insurance, salaries, technology, and transportation, among other things. In addition, encountering revenues in interest earnings, IRA rebates, BOCES refunds, and worker comp recoveries. This all resulted in an improvement of our fund balance in addition to that. Due to this year's Board of Education's numerous fiscal decisions, the Budget Advisory Committee does support the proposed 26-27 budget, which includes a 2.75% increase. While we recognize the fiscal discipline in this budget, we are concerned that it may be overly constrained given ongoing inflation and increasing cost pressures, which could impact the availability to sustain services at current levels. The BAC would have understood a 2.99% increase, but we respect the conservative 2.75, so there is no surplus to an increase. It is also very unfortunate the annual New York State aid to our school district has ranged at about 1% annually over the years. Although the school district does actively participate in numerous organizations and committees, it is imperative that the members of our Board of Education enhance their lobbying efforts to our local New York State representatives, as this level of aid cannot continue forever and adds to a serious financial strain to the preparation of our annual budget. Once again, our BAC this year was a talented and passionate collection of dedicated residents from various backgrounds that enjoyed the opportunity to serve. It is comprised of community members with diverse opinions that have led to careful and considerate process. It has been a privilege to serve with all of them. This year, our committee welcomed Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Kerry Lachlan, to the budgetary revenue process, and thank her for well-prepared presentations and look forward to a continued relationship with our BAC. Our committee would also sincerely like to thank Dr. Harney for his commitment to our BAC process every year. His candor and direct approach to the budgetary process is very much appreciated. We do wish him well in the next chapter of his life. Thank you, Dr. Harney, for everything you've done with us also. We'd like to take the opportunity to thank the community and the residents of Bayport Blue Point for allowing us to serve in this capacity as your representatives on this budget committee. And that is presented by myself, Michael Capozzi, Jack McQuaid, Matt Hyland, who was a member who was here. Raise your hand. Dennis McCarthy, who is hiding out in the back over there. Thank you, Dennis. Michelle Kessler, Jack Soder, welcome back. Patrick Grube, right over here, constant, many years. Jensu McCorrick, and John Walsh. So thank you very much for allowing us to work with you on this budget and in a difficult year.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. I appreciate your all the thought and effort you put into this, and I know that you guys spend a lot of time doing your best to be the community extension to this process. And I've been around for a pretty long time, but I know when I joined the BAC prior to being on the board, that was 11, 12 years ago. You were on it, and you were leading the way back then, so we appreciate your time.
I don't know. Dennis and I are probably. Dennis, how long were we on the committee? Dennis exceeds Mike. Too many years. Dennis has seniority over myself, but we've been around a long time. We're all dogs. But that leads me to one thing, and I'm going to take your time. We invite any community members to join the committee. You don't have to be a finance expert. Anything you like to do, we meet in the fall into the fall into the spring session. It's a very good process to let you understand the budget. You don't have to agree with the budget. You can have different opinions, but it gives you an opportunity, as they explain the budget, to give you insight as to how a school district budget is prepared. It's not what you think it is. There's a lot of components of things you may or may not understand. So we invite you, or the school district invites you, to join the committee. Invitations, I think, are offered in the late summer, and we usually begin around October to early, around Halloween time. So, but please, anybody would like to join, the committee would welcome anybody's input and participation. Very welcomed. So, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Any questions? Otherwise,
Do we have any questions from the board for Mr. Devine?
yes.
Okay, I just want to thank Mr. Devine, and I want to thank all the members of the.
Jess has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, thank you so much, Mr. Devine,
you.
for presenting to us once again, and I'd like to also thank all the community members on BAC. Just to highlight once again, these are volunteers that give their time to participate in the process, and many of you are volunteers in several areas of your lives, so we really appreciate that. My only question would be if we could potentially schedule a BAC visit slightly earlier in the year, just so
Yeah,
that
we
we're
did
not
dis- we
presenting
did
on the
discuss that
night of
last
the
year, and I think
budget
that's
adoption.
An excellent thought. I think maybe we have Kerry now, Ms. Loughlin, and maybe we could work that into the process, and that would be very good. We would enjoy that too.
I would love to hear from
Welcome.
you earlier in the process, because we
Absolutely.
really do appreciate your feedback and your input. And I just want to thank you also for highlighting the challenging situation that a negative levy cap provides. I'm not sure that a casual observer would necessarily understand that, and I really appreciate you breaking that down so that folks understand why this year is so unique.
I've been involved in assessment and taxation for over 46 years in my profession, besides this matter. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen it, especially something that's drastic, of that negativity of the act of cutting $473,000 to meet the levy cap. And as I said, if I said it correctly, I hope I did, $1 above that would pierce the cap. So $472,999 or whatever would theoretically pierce the cap. So it's a tough situation for any board besides our board to encounter. I've never heard of it. So again, we don't make the numbers. They come down from New York State, but it is what it is, and we'll all work together to make it work.
I want to thank Mr. Devine and all the members of the Budget Advisory Committee for all your assistance this year. Thank you. For our last presentation tonight, we have Superintendent Dr. Harney and our Assistant Superintendent of Finance Operation, Ms. Loughlin, and they're going to do their 7th and final budget presentation of the year.
Good evening. So this is our 7th workshop. We've been at this since December, and I too would like to thank the Budget Advisory Committee. Being new to the district, they've been helpful to me to understand the community input and the community side of things here at Bayport Blue Point. We've had some very good conversations at our meetings, and as Mr. Devine said, anybody is welcome to come join our meeting and ask the questions and get educated on this process. It is a laborious process that we go through. We started in the fall, and the Budget Advisory Committee meets every week we have a budget workshop. They're meeting before that to have that conversation as well. So it is a lot of time that they're volunteering, and I do appreciate the conversation and that we've had that has helped us in this process throughout. So tonight we're going to go through our, we do have one more presentation after this, which is our budget hearing. So tonight we're going to go through what our 26-27 program enhancements are, our 26-27 proposed 3-part budget, as well as our final budget proposal for next school year. So every presentation, if you've been following along, we do start with our district priorities that have been developed through our strategic plan. We review these as we go through this process, as it drives what we're doing for our students and this community. So just a quick snapshot. If you follow along over the course of this year in some presentations, Dr. Harney has presented about updates on our strategic plan, and in there you can find more in-depth opportunities that we've grown and accomplishments that the district has received over the years. These are just highlighting a few things. The Chromebook K-12 one-to-one initiative, we have that in place and continue to replace Chromebooks as they're aging out, so it is a budgetary priority. We've added literacy coaches within the district. We've added additional AP courses in our high school levels. We have added additional clubs at all schools and all levels. We have a new science and math program. We've added full-day pre-K. We have additional security staff and equipment, and we've also added social workers in all of our buildings to provide supports to all of our students. As we go into the 26-27 school year, these are just some of the things that we've added into the budget to help continue to expand our programs. We are expanding our special education program over at James Wilson Young Middle School. There is no cost associated with it, as it is just shifting of staff based on student needs. We have cafeteria tables being replaced at Blue Point Elementary, and that is a safety concern and an issue that we need to address. We have art tables at Sylvan Avenue, desk replacements at Academy and James Wilson Young. We have cafeteria and desk replacements happening at the high school. Capital projects, we are purchasing a new pickup truck for our maintenance team. This was in the current year's budget, but did get removed as the budget got finalized. So it is a little bit behind in scheduling for our truck replacement. We have HVAC replacement and repairs happening through our capital transfer, flooring replacement, as well as pipe replacements at Blue Point Elementary. That will happen again all through capital transfers that have either happened in past years or is included in this current year's budget. In the area of athletics, we are adding the girls flag football team for next year, as well as purchasing new lacrosse cages. And in the area of technology, we're going to be upgrading our wireless access points, as well as our cybersecurity firewall enhancements. Again, was supposed to occur this year, but due to timing and the way contracts fell, we were not able to accomplish it. So we've put it into next year's budget as a project. And again, as I mentioned before, we continue our Chromebook replacements for our cohorts. So this year, as Mr. Devine stated, we did have some budget challenges. If you've been following along, you're aware of it. Limited state aid, we're only receiving a 1% increase in foundation aid. State budgets have not yet been adopted. So we don't know if we'll be getting any further funds in that area. So at this point in time, we are on a timeline to adopt our budget that we have to go with what we know at this point in time for state aid. That 1% equates to just over $100,000 on an $89 million budget. You can imagine how far that will go. Enrollment, we have declining enrollment, which continues to challenge us as we balance our staff between all buildings. We have, as Mr. Devine stated, a negative levy due to expiring debt. Our operational costs are outpacing our revenue increases. And we have unfunded mandates we need to continue to follow, and they're continuing to come forward with new ones. So in the past few years, in the areas of our English language learners, as well as our special education, and upcoming now financial literacy. So the overall budget, this is just a quick summary of what we have. We break the budget down into 3 different components. Administration, which is just that, the higher level of overseeing the entire district is things that are not directly impacting students, such as administrative costs, as well as our legal fees, some BOCES costs that relate to it. We have also our capital, which is our custodial maintenance and grounds, salaries and benefits as it relates to all of them, our security department, our debt and insurance for the district, and as well as utilities and capital projects. And then our program component, as you could imagine, is 75% of our budget. That is everything that is a direct impact to our students, the instructional and support staff salaries and benefits, transportation, BOCES programs, athletics, co-curricular clubs. All of those things are falling underneath that umbrella. So just a little recap if you haven't seen previous presentations and how we get to that negative 0.76 levy. We have debt falling off, which falls in underneath the exemption category, which is where you are obligated to raise your funds in order to pay off prior year bonds that have been approved. And that's netted with your building aid that you're receiving to help pay for that as well. So in that calculation, as a result of $1.4 million of debt expiring in this current year, we've made our final payment on an old project. Our levy, our exemption is reduced by that. So therefore, we now have a negative levy. And in order to sustain all of our programs in 26-27, it is necessary for us to go above that allowable levy limit into the 26-27 school year. And over the past years, Bayport Blue Point has been underneath the levy limit of the past 5 years, 3 of those 5 years. Again, that was coming out of COVID. The economy at that time was not that great. The board was conscious of and making those decisions for the taxpayers while still maintaining program. So every year we don't collect at the maximum, we lower our base. So it is kind of money that we've not collected and will never collect going forward. So again, since the tax cap's been enacted, really, which was 15 years ago, Bayport Blue Point has always remained within that limit, as I stated before, 3 years also going underneath the levy limit. Our state aid proposal was only 1% at this point in time, which is providing just about a $100,000 increase in revenue there. But our expense-based aids, which we get based on what we spend on certain categories, is declining because we are declining some of those expense-based aids categories. So as we're refining the budget year over year and putting efficiencies in place, we do see some costs going down, and as a result, your aid would go down with that. So overall, our net state aid was a 0.85% increase on our budget for next year. So really to maintain our educational programs and the academic excellence that we've put in place over the course of time, we are proposing a tax levy that will exceed the allowable limit in the 26-27 school year. If you recall, if you've seen, in March 1st, we were required to report to the Comptroller's Office prior to the budget being adopted what we project our tax levy will be. And at that time, the board authorized a maximum levy of 2.99%, and that gave us an administration something to work in and a goal in order to finalize this budget. And as we've gone through it, we've worked with BAC, we've had conversations, we've worked with all of administration staff, we've completed our budget and have determined that a 2.75 levy is suffice to support our budget for next school year. So the total budget that we're asking the board to adopt tonight is $88,387,020. So, you know, a lot of community members are starting to ask, what does that impact on us? You're going above the allowable levy limit. What does it do to my taxes? Assuming all things constant, we don't get the actual assessed values until the fall. We don't set our final tax until the fall. We don't know what the equalization rates will be. We do operate in 2 towns. We have homestead, we have non-homestead. It's a fairly in-depth calculation that goes into what that final tax rate is per taxpayer. But at this time, based on the information we have, we are estimating that a typical taxpayer will pay about $24 a month increase in their taxes. And that is for both Brookhaven and Islip. And again, that is just for the homestead value. So again, really, this is a true estimate at this point in time. We spoke about it last night at BAC, and along with Ronnie Devine's expertise in this area, we've spoken with the assessor's office to try to make sure we can try to get this as close of a number that we can for the community to understand what this levy does above current school year. So our last meeting will be on May 5th. That is our annual budget hearing. But from now until the vote on May 19th, we will be doing numerous community presentations as well that you are more than welcome to join us at those public conversations that will really recap the entire budget season, budget cycle, and celebrate a lot of the great things that we've done here in the district over the years and what we're looking forward to in the future years. Any questions from the board on this particularly?
Anything for Kerry then
No,
I'll go.
good, fantastic job. Great first year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So first, I'd like to, again, thank Mr. Devine and the entire BAC for all their work over the months. They have been a great, besides gathering information for them, they've been a tremendous sounding board for us as well, so I appreciate that and all your efforts. I'd also like to thank, or I'd be remiss if I did not thank Mrs. Lachlan for all her efforts on creating the budget, really from the beginning to end, coming into the district, running right from the beginning. So again, I'd like to thank her for all her efforts. So it's interesting because tonight is probably a conversation that probably almost every year as a superintendent I've had at some point, and probably even as an assistant superintendent is one that continuously comes forward. I remember I was looking at the notes from last year and we had a very similar conversation last year at this time regarding staffing. So I'm going to go through all that, then I will absolutely take questions. I'll give you a little bit of a historical piece, but we'll kind of walk you through this. One of the things that was said last time, or a question that came up was, this is something that we are very thoughtful about and we think about on a regular basis. But I'll go through it and then I'll take some questions from the board and we'll kind of go from there. So really since the last meeting, when I had done staffing, it was at the March 31st meeting. And really it's something we typically do every single year in the March where we review all of our staffing. And since that time, I've received a number of emails or calls regarding staffing, in particular, 2 of the grades, one over at Academy Street and one over at Sylvan. So I'll talk to those a little bit, but I'll also talk to the historical piece to this as we go forward. The information that we try to gather as we're trying to make proposals or recommendations to the Board of Ed here. So, and before we do this is, sorry, I'm just looking at something. Oh, okay. So one of the things I wanted to do is talk about the historical piece. So many of you may know this or not know this, so I'm going to go back a little bit. Probably between my time being the assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction and the superintendent, I guess that covers probably about 13 or 14 years. And probably during that time, we had done probably 3 enrollment studies, which is something we were continuously doing. Bayport Blue Point has had or has gone through enrollment changes over the years, and Bayport Blue Point is not alone in that. Majority of Long Island is going through that. I actually think we were probably ahead of some of the curve, where I believe we have kind of flatlined now, where some districts are really starting to go through it now. But as we had done it, we had done a couple of presentations. We put together an enrollment committee twice. We actually came to and offered suggestions to the Board of Ed, and at that time it was really considered to continue to go along the same lines as we are, which is having 3 elementary buildings and keeping the same configuration, because that's one of the things we were doing. We were taking a look at the configuration, because one of the things we were struggling with, you can go back 13, 14 years ago, which is still the same today, is because the way the numbers run, you always have, especially with Sylvan and Academy, whether you're going 2 sections or 3, but actually back then, if you go back 10 years, it was probably a difference between 3 and 4. Because over the past 10 years, our enrollment has dropped about 500 across the board. So it's it's about close to 24%. So with that, a couple of things have happened. One, we're continuously looking to see if we can become more efficient. That's one. 2, it's also offered an opportunity for us to be able to offer more programs. So like since that time, or since COVID really, we've been able to add pre-K, we've been able to add social workers, we've added clubs, all the things that we've talked about that we've been continuing to do, all within the tax cap era. So those are a lot of things that we've been focusing on as we go forward. But I can go back as far as 10, 12 years when we talked about enrollment, saying that this is going to be a discussion each year, because no matter what, Blue Point was always easy in the sense of Blue Point would always have 2 sections. We couldn't fit more than, when I say 2 sections, so 2 classes, all right? Because when you were going back, is they didn't have the room to add another class in, so it was always 2. So whether there were 30 students in a grade, or if there were 46 to 48, it was going to be 2 sections. It was going to be the classes of 15, or we've had classes over the years of 23, 24. That's how it's been over at Blue Point Elementary. But when you look at Sylvan and Academy Street, they've always gone back and forth. And one of the goals as a district is always trying to balance them. That becomes very, very difficult because of just how numbers fall and where people live. So it's one of those things that we're continuously taking a look at, but it's not easy to do. But as we looked at this, I'm going to kind of walk you through a couple of things, because some of the comments that were shared at the last meeting talked about class sizes, and we've never been where some of the recommendations that we're going to make. We've actually had class sizes pre-COVID and since COVID in the areas that we're talking about. One of the things I'll say I'm very proud of is, one, we have a tremendous staff all around, from what we do with our teachers in the classroom, or whether it be our administrators or our support staff. They've been tremendous here. So that is something I would just like to say. But as you look at this, if you go all the way back to, and we just picked a date, and we went back to 2014-15. And if you go back to that date and you start to look at the differences in the class size, you will see variations between Academy and Sylvan, depending on the grade, and again, depending on where people live. One of the things that we've really tried not to do, and I can say during my time, we have not accessed an elementary teacher in my time, where you see many other districts, and I'm not going to get into any other districts, who've had to do some access. That is not something we've done. One of the things we have tried to do, though, is as we have retirements, looking to see if there's an opportunity through attrition that we can start to reduce our staff. Remember, over that same 10 years, we dropped over 500 students. So automatically, you would imagine that there would be some reduction to staff. So those are the things that we tried to think about and doing, while still offering our students the education that they deserve. So if you go back to 2014-15, and I'm not going to go through each of the buildings, but I'll give it this. So we had class sizes in 14-15 where there were 2 separate grades of 23. Okay, so that's a number when people were talking about that being a high number. In 15-16, we had another grade in one of the buildings of 23. In another building, it was 23 and 22. In 16-17, we had a building where there were 3 grades, 22, 23, and 25 across the grades. And then in that same year, one of the other buildings had 22. In 17-18, we had one of our buildings, we had where class sizes were 25 and 23. In the other building, it was 22 and 22. And the reason I use those numbers, because those are the numbers that were shared with me of large class sizes, the 22 number and larger. So that's why I just selected that number. In 18-19, we had 3 grades in a building where it was 24/25, 22 and 23, and the other building where it was 22 and 23, and another class of 23. Again, so it varies on grade because each year it's just very different. 19-20, which is the year really prior to COVID, because if you remember, it was March of 20 when COVID came upon us. During that year, in one building, we had class sizes of 22, 23, 25, and another grade of 24 and 25. So this is something, as a district, and our students have continuously thrived. As a matter of fact, during that time is when we were a blue ribbon school. Again, that's a tribute to our staff, to our teachers, and all the work that they do. And then in that same year, in another building, there was 22. COVID came, which is the 2021 school year. And that's kind of where everything changed. And that's not, again, a Bayport thing. That is probably across New York, actually probably the country, but I'll just talk to us here. So if you were looking at it during that time, between 20 and 21, that school year, we had all of our class sizes were between 12 and 16. There's no doubt about it. But it was due to, if you remember at that time, we had to do a 6 feet social distancing. So that was one of the things that played into that. Right after that, at each of these meetings, we started to talk about is we had to start to look away. We could not continue to maintain class sizes across 3 buildings again of 12 to 14. Okay, that would be very, very difficult to do. And again, I would argue that I'm not sure it's the best thing to do as well. Then we come into 21-22, as you looked at that year, I would say we didn't touch anything because we were just coming out of COVID. We did change class size a little bit in 21-22, but most of the class sizes were going between 14 and 19 at that time, all right? Then as we entered the 22-23 school year, we started to see where we were starting to have some retirements, which I told you, which I mentioned earlier, which was always our focus. If there was an opportunity during that time that we could take a look without, again, accessing staff, because that was one of the things we were trying not to do, is we would take a look at it. Again, we were also coming where inflation at that time was very high, if you remember, and that was across the country as well. But if you come back to 22-23 now, in a couple of the classes, we started to have different class sizes a little bit higher again. So in 22-23, in one of our buildings, we had class sizes of 22 and 23. That was a year that we did go from 3 to 2 sections, which is something that we are proposing here. Another school, we had done the same thing where we went from 3 to 2 sections in that year. 23-24, we had one of our buildings where we had class sizes of 23 students. And in another building, we had them at 22 students. Again, it's specific grades. It's not across all grades because that's where it becomes difficult. 24-25, so we're getting closer to now. We had one school where there was a grade of 22. And our current year right now, again, where we had reduced a section where we had gone from 3 to 2 sections where we are on 22-23. And then in another school, we have 23 students. Saying all that, those are all some of the things that we take into consideration. Our students, and speaking to our staff, they are continuously doing very well, as they did pre-COVID. So it's kind of taking a look at everything that we are offering. So as we kind of look at this and we say, okay, where did the proposal come from? This is not something that just happened and said, hey, let's do this for the 26-27 school year. It's really something that we've been looking at over the years, and definitely during my time, whether it be as an assistant superintendent or a superintendent. And again, I keep saying this, and I know I keep reiterating it. It's when you have the two buildings, it just depends on where the numbers are and kids that are coming into the district, where they're coming from. Sometimes you get these very odd numbers, which puts you in a tough spot of, all right, is it 2 or 3 sections? No longer are we really talking about 4 sections. That has not been a conversation in probably 10 years. So as we're looking at this, when we're talking about the recommendations, one is trying to be fiscally responsible, but again, offering all of our students the opportunity. We have an opportunity with retirements. Many of you know we've done a retirement incentive. We have many retirements coming as we're going into the future. So it's one of us that also will kind of set us up and again, enable us to offer hopefully more programs as we're continuously looking to grow. One of the other things now, which is more so now than we did prior to COVID, we actually offer more support now. So for example, as I mentioned earlier, pre-COVID, we did not have social workers in every building. So we have more social mental health support. We did not have a guidance counselor who was shared, so we have that as well. We also have TAs that push in to our 3 through 5 and our K through 2. So those are all the things that we have in place that we're going to continue to have, again, which we did not have earlier on, but things that we've added. We've added the literacy coaches to be assistants. So these are things that, as we're making this recommendation, we are very comfortable in the recommendation that we have. And again, it comes back to the staff we have, which again, I will put up against any other staff that there is. And we've also been able to, in that time over the years, to gather feedback about the class size that we've been looking at. So these are things that went into this decision or this proposal or recommendation, whatever you would like to say, that when we were looking at this to come forward, that we were trying to bring forward. Saying all this, and I've said this in the past, and Mr. Miller had said this, is as we go forward, this one will be something that we continue to look at and monitor. If we get additional students, it will have to be looked at. There's no doubt about it. Also, if we had a class in any of our elementaries, or actually any of our 5 buildings, and there was a class that was struggling or something, the teacher or the administrators would come forward, and we would look to address it just like we would with any class. Whether it be a class with 22 or 23, whether it be a class with 17, whether it be one of our co-teaching classes, it's kind of what we've always done, and we will continue to do that. So that is really the history to all this, just to give people the picture of it. Again, nothing is ever taken lightly. It's very well thought out. We have a lot of discussions about it. I understand it. I want to thank everybody for coming, and I'll take any of the questions. But that's really kind of where we came with the recommendation as we were looking at staff as we're going forward. And I will say this, one of the ideas as we were looking at the incentive, again, is trying to probably be cognizant of our taxpayers as well. Over the next couple of years, again, there are going to be retirements. Am I telling you we're not replacing them all? I will absolutely not. We are going to have to replace staff. But where we're able to and still offer our students a tremendous program, we're going to continue to take a look at that as we make suggestions going forward. I just think it's one of the most important things that we need to do. So again, we've been looking at this for years and years, and this is continues to be a discussion. And my guess is it will continue to be a discussion going forward based on just, again, we have enrollments that just look different each year in each of the buildings. I can tell you this, for example, and I know nobody would want to hear this, if our incoming kindergarten class next year together, where we're possibly looking at 8 sections or 8 teachers, possibly. Right now it's 7, it's possibly 8. If they were all together, it would be 6, and it would be 6 of a very, very manageable number. So it's just sometimes where the students fall, so that's where it becomes something that we have to continuously watch and look at. But again, our ultimate goal is to provide our students with the education and the programs, which I can honestly say over the years, we've continued to enrich what we're offering our students. That I'm very confident in. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board for any questions they have.
Dr. Harney, I have a question for you. Obviously, I think everyone's concerned about the quality of education, and what would you say to somebody that might say, well, our smaller class size is better, or, who believe that the smaller class sizes are better? How would you respond to that question?
Well, I can only talk from historical. So one is, if you're asking me, do I think a class of 24 for an intermediate level is a high number of students? I do not. I think it's one of those numbers that is very, very manageable. And I know our staff and what they are able to offer our staff. I'm very confident in that, especially because as I look at what we've done in the past, I'm very comfortable with that. Two, I would also say, as I mentioned earlier, we do offer more supports now than we were doing in the past. So that I'm very comfortable with. And then really the third thing I would say is if there is, again, this applies to every classroom, Mr. Sauter, if somebody were to come forward and say, hey, we need to look at something or more assistance, that is something that I'm sure would come forward because that is something we've done in the past. So that would not be something that we would shy away from either. So, I also think if you have classes too small, you're talking about some of these numbers where now you're talking, if you really were to split them, you're having classes of 14. Again, I'm not sure that is necessarily from a social standpoint the best either. You have 3 or 4 students, now you're down to 10 students in a class. I go, that makes it a little bit more so difficult for staff as well in terms of managing that. So there's this balance that you're absolutely looking at as you're looking at it. But again, the hardest battle we have is, I keep saying it, is where the numbers fall in terms of the lines, in terms of the 2 buildings. As I said, Blue Point really doesn't have a say. It is what it is for them, just because of there are only 2 classrooms per class. It's really the other 2 buildings when we're looking at this.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Just a question. I know I call often on my own public ed experience. So something that is unique here, obviously, is the size of the district and the declining enrollment with an already small district. So I understand the challenges of that, especially as someone who does scheduling myself in my professional life. My question for you would be if you could just address what the contractual limit is for those courses.
Yeah.
And then if you, as an admin team, kind of have a dividing line where you say, okay, this is where we need to add another section. Because I know in past years we've said, well, if 1 or 2 more students move in, we'll need to add a section. So if we could kind of get a look at what that looks like for you.
Yeah, sure. I can give you 2 things. So we have 2 things that we really need to take a look at, right? And one is you have contractual language within the teacher's contract. So you have that, right? And the district does have a policy as well. So within them, I'm both very comfortable in saying, like, so for example, and I'm really going to talk to the elementary because that's what I think we're mainly talking about here tonight. But if people would like secondary information, we have that as well. Kindergarten classes from a contractual is no more than 25 students. Grades 1 to 3 is 25. Grades 4 through 5 is 27. But then there is something in there, depending on when people move in, there's a 10% that you can do on top of that. So that plays into it. And actually our policy is K3 28 to 21 and 4 to 5 is 30 to 1. I'm going to be honest, I would not recommend those numbers. That is not numbers I would be recommending or go to. Typically what we've done over the years during my time is in the K2 area, and again, this is not, I know I say this, but it's not written in stone anywhere, but usually in the K2 area, once you get to that 48, then you would split them into 3 groups of 16, okay? And then when you're talking about 4 through 5, maybe 3 through 5, and you'd have to take a look at the makeup of those classes and stuff, I would tell you probably 51, which would then put you in 3 sections of 17. So I would say no more than 25 there. We haven't had to go there, though in Sylvan in this case, the 4th grade would be a 24 and a 25, and Academy's 5th grade would be 2 24s, just so everyone knows what we're talking about here tonight. Okay?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Before I invite community members to go up here, I definitely want to echo a lot of what Dr. Harney said. I've been on the board for a little over 10 years. This was a problem from before when you were the assistant superintendent. You know, we discussed and we looked at enrollment studies, we looked at configurations. I had 2 daughters that went through elementary, and they experienced both ends. And some of those high classes they were in, and then they would swoop down, and because an extra student would come in, they would be in 3 smaller classes. And, you know, I've never really seen the impact one way or the other. But I will say we deal with this every year. It's the same situation. And I could say from my experience as both a board member and a parent, it's not so much class size problem, it's a consistency of class size problem. Once we got down to a certain amount of enrollment in the school district, having 3 elementary schools it's tough. It's tough to have you can't have consistency across enrollment for each class. It ends up being either 2 or 3, and that's really what the root cause of the problem is. But when we talk about alternate courses of action or restructuring things, nobody wants to hear that. And like, I feel the same way. Nobody wants to send multiple kids to different schools, and nobody wants to change, you know, whatever school your kids were currently growing up in, especially as they get to 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. So that's the problem we have ultimately, is consistency within enrollment in classes. So there's really, I could tell you right now, Dr. Harney's done everything he can to kind of to figure this out without you know, going to a scenario where we just decide, you know, we're just going to have every class be in the teens and go to that level of additional staff, which is kind of financially unsustainable. So I thank you for your time, Tim, and I open this up for anyone, and I just wanted to let you know that, you know, my daughters are at elementary school, but, you know, I went through the same scenarios as you guys went, and I was on the board and really, you know, had to kind of temper my own personal opinions about it and just do what was right, for, you know, as far as my position on the Board of Education. Thank you. Welcome anybody up now at this time. Can I ask name and town that you?
I am Jason Duran from Bayport, 212 Garrettson Avenue. You speak of consistency. Our 5th graders, my son, has had 16 in his class since kindergarten. You're asking them to move to 24? That's inconsistent. I would like to know where I can get a copy of the detailed budget. Is that online somewhere, or is it here, where I can get a copy of that?
The annual budget statement will be released next week. It will be online in all the buildings as well as in the public library.
Okay. Yep. As a person who deals with budgets every day, it looks like the big number that I saw up there was a 25.5% overhead. That has nothing to do with students. That's administrative and facilities, I guess, overhead number. 25.5%, that's high for any organization. So I'm gonna take a look at that. We can all take a look at it. It is. It's a high number. That 2%, we can get back to that and fund all the things we're asking for. So let's take a look at the budget. I'll take a look at it, and I'll come back to the next meeting with comments on that. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Harney, and hi, board. Thank you guys, as always, for the transparency and the communication and everything that you guys are doing for our kids. We're so happy here. My name is Katie Hill. I'm a proud Academy Street mom of a current kindergartner and a 4th grader. 3 years ago, we moved into the district, and I was raised in a neighboring town, but we intentionally made the choice to come here, where I was raised in a town with larger classes and lower taxes. We made the choice to come here because I knew it would make a difference for my kids. We made that choice knowingly, gratefully, and admittedly at a financial cost. When we moved here, when my oldest was in the middle of 1st grade, I watched her thrive instantly, where she was in a class where the teacher not only knew her name, but her learning style, her struggles, and her strengths within weeks. It made my daughter's academic and social transition easy because of the intimate class sizes, and it provided great comfort for our family, validating our choice to live here. The proposal for next year's class sections, as everyone has acknowledged, would increase the average size at Academy up to almost 45% in some instances, which is a dramatic change, like Jay just said, and is also significantly different than we're seeing at some of our sister elementary schools. And I understand that's naturally part of the ebb and flow. I flag that disparity gently because I know that another solution might be rezoning or restructuring, like you alluded to, which obviously presents different challenges. They might not be financial, but I think they're emotional and they affect a lot of people. You know, there are studies out there, and I'm sure you guys could probably recite them from memory about the value of lower class sizes, and especially at the elementary school level, classes under 20 students being the most valuable and having the greatest impact on kids. When we cross that threshold and we go in the wrong direction, we're not just changing numbers, but we're changing the experience entirely. I understand the budget pressures are real. I work in budgets all day, so I'm empathetic to everything that you guys are working through. I would just ask the board to consider what's also real, and that's the reason that families choose this district, the home values that are tied to our school district's reputation, and the learning environment that families like mine specifically sought out. I appreciate your consideration in all of the things that make our district great, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samantha Cardulo. I live in Bayport. I'm a proud Academy mom, and I felt obligated to come tonight. We moved here June 17th of 2025. I came from the Patchogue Medford School District. I'm a Patchogue Medford graduate, class of 2000, and I wanted my kids to be in that district. I have a second grader and I have a fourth grader. My fourth grader, he loves it. He loves math. He currently has 5 separate books all open in his room with a timer, and he loves to read, and he loves school. My daughter, she was very opposite, a little bit like me, a little bit of a push. We knew we had to move out of our district when, at the end of March last year, I was picking her up from club and was pulled into the classroom by the teacher for a random meeting, and I thought she was in trouble. She let me know my daughter needs to learn. She is failing. She cannot read, and she doesn't understand phonetics. And I quote, "But don't worry, she'll be fine going into the 2nd grade." Every morning was a struggle to get this little girl up. So we moved to the district, and in August, the lovely Miss Beard, who I can't thank enough, had a 20-minute phone call conversation. And within that 20 minutes of interest inventory of both of my children, knew exactly which teachers would benefit for both. Miss Schroeder, who probably hates that I praise her name every single day, and bless her for everything. She took an inventory investment with her. She did benchmark assessments. And by October 10th, on a family vacation, my daughter was reading chapter books that she got out of the swimming pool and came to sit. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm finishing my book." My daughter loves school. My son loves school. We left a class of 25 to come here specifically because of the smaller class sizes. I have never in my life, my daughter comes home now and doesn't even want help with homework. She says, "Mom, I got this," and we'll sit. We're getting 80s, we're getting 90s, and I am very concerned that the larger class sizes, I'm gonna lose my kid again. And again, I'm a 20-year educator. I've been in special education high school, and I get the importance of education. I've never understood it more than having my own children. But just to think and reconsider these higher numbers, because again, I am concerned of the loss of some of these kids that we're gonna get academically, and I don't wanna go backwards. I wanna continue thriving, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for a great presentation. We appreciate it so much, and I understand completely what you're saying. I guess the only last thing I want to address is like having equitable class sizes throughout the district. So for next year, Sylvan Avenue Elementary, the 5th grade class size is 15.5. For Blue Point Elementary, it's 16.5, and projected for Academy is 24. So that's 8 extra students in the Academy 5th grade, where this year we have 16 kids per class in the 4th grade. And that's what we love about it. We love Academy, we love Bayport, go Phantoms. We just want to bring that to your attention. That's a concern of ours. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Any other community matters? We appreciate your time, and we definitely hear everything you said. A lot of us have gone through it as well, so thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda, are there any items the board would like to move from the consent to the regular agenda? Nothing. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda item F through J? Ms. Pignataro? Sorry, Ms. Connie, Ms. Pignataro? All in favor? Opposed? No abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to our regular agenda. First item is a roll call vote. I will call the names of each trustee that is present for a yes or no vote. Can I get a motion to approve the 2026-2027 Bayport Blue Point School District budget of $88,387,020? Mr. Sauter.
Aye.
Ms. Pignataro.
Aye.
Ms. Connie.
Aye.
And I am a yes as well. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the 2026-27 property tax report card? Motion, Ms. Connie. Ms. Pignataro. All in favor? None opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the 2026-27 Eastern Suffolk BOCES budget? Okay, Ms. Connie, Ms. Pignataro. The budget for Eastern Suffolk BOCES is $485,682,491 and represents an increase from prior year budget of 2.75. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the 2026-27 Eastern Suffolk BOCES election results? Ms. Connie, Ms. Pignataro, and so little discussion. There was 5 candidates that ran for 5 vacant seats, and it was Susan Lippman of West Islip, Joseph Lochevo of Patrick Medford, Ann Makesy of Sag Harbor, Victoria Malloy of Longwood, and Catherine Romano of Islip. Congratulations to them and their and for being elected to their seats. All in favor? Opposed? No abstentions. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the 2026-27 Bayport Blue Point Library results? Okay, Mrs. Pignataro, Mrs. Connie, Ms. Pignataro. All in favor? Opposed? No abstentions. Motion carries. And I want to say congratulations to Bob Draffin and Catherine Ramos for being elected to the 2 open trustee seats. And congratulations to Mr. Devine for passing your budget. So good stuff. Okay, this is the final chance if there's any community member that wants to come up for any business, old or new. Sure.
We need you on the mic, sorry.
They got to get you on video.
So with the budget, so it's 2% cap plus the 3% increase, so the total will be like a 5% increase. No?
No. So to give you, so to give a little background, last year the community voted on a 3.4% budget. There was, the state came down, the calculation was incorrect. That the tax, that's what kind of Ms. Loughlin was saying before, the actual official numbers that come down, we don't really know. It ended up being only, the taxes only went up 0.25% in this current year, on average. And anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. So this year, instead of being 0.25%, it's an actual negative tax levy. So across 2 years, you're going into like negative. So it ends up being 2.75 for the 26-27. So if you were to add the 2 years together, you're still below what the community passed last year.
Okay, but still, that would be the max. It's not, I was thinking it's a 2 cap.
No, the tax levy, not to confuse you, that was
Oh, I'm
voted on,
sorry,
that was
yeah.
voted on tonight was 2.75. That is what it is. Because this, and I know what you were saying, because the state comes out and says, hey, we have a 2% tax cap, right? It's funny, if you looked at everyone's district, no one has a 2%. It varies from, there are districts going at that at 5%, there are districts going at it 1%, it varies. It depends on the formula, and there's many different pieces part of that formula. For us, it will be 2.75, with nothing in addition to that.
And And that's, you know, it could be, if you've done nothing to your home, it could be as low as 2%. Because it's a calculation, you know, a lot of it involves, like, if you get an addition put on your house, obviously your taxes go, if you grieve your taxes go down. So it's kind of the balance in between this. So what they allow us to grow our tax levy at is based on, you know, it's based on several factors, and one of them including tax base. If your tax base grows because you build new property, that doesn't mean the individual person's tax scope. It just means we could tax a higher percentage because we now have new taxable, you know, whether it's a pool that.
2.75. I'll make it easy for you.
Okay, any other questions?
Hi, my name is Matt Highland. I live in Bayport. I had the honor of serving with Mr. Devine and the rest of the Budget Advisory Committee for the second time this year. I appreciate that. I just wanted to come up here and thank everybody on the board and from the administration for doing what you do. I know the board members, you're volunteers. I want to thank the folks from the community. I'm an Academy Street parent myself. There's my son Jackson right there, pretending like he can't hear what I'm saying. Thanks for coming out and voicing your support for your students or for our school. And I appreciate the civility and the respect that everybody showed tonight. It's welcome. Thanks.
Mr. Vice President, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who came out tonight too, and I just want to echo Matt's comments. Thank you, Matt. You know, it's really hard to get up here, I mean, and do what you guys did tonight. You know, maybe you're not familiar with the school board meeting or you don't come every week. So to come up, it's an emotional investment. It takes time to research your topic and come up and do this. I appreciate it. I applaud it. We want to hear from you. We want participation. Thank you for coming. The worst thing to do is to hold it in and get frustrated and then not tell everybody about it. So thank you very much.
I want to thank everyone for coming. Motion to adjourn. Oh, it's trustee new business, sorry.
This is great timing with Mrs. Westerland's science presentation. I just wanted to send a big shout out to the JWY Science Olympiad team. They are competing at States in Syracuse Friday and Saturday for the 4th year in a row. And they're really liking their chances of coming home with a lot of medals. So best of luck.
Oh, yeah. And I also want to congratulate Ms. Velasco, or Dr. Velasco now, for her completion of her doctorate. Very good job, hard work. Motion to adjourn. King Taro, Ms. Conley. Good night, everyone.